Eh, eh, eh. All right, we should be live. It usually goes live before it says. Yes.
Okay.
So hello, everybody. We are back for this Secrets of Living Your Amazing Life, Your Amazing Self, really anchoring heaven to earth in this series. And there's 2 days left in it. And I'm still like pretty much what's happened in my life is a complete upheaval of like the most random stuff I never would have expected to come up. And I'm going to see where it lands. And so I don't know if any of you guys are in the same boat, but we'd love to know. So go ahead and leave us a comment and let us know. So beside me here is my dear friend, and we actually met 7 years ago, 8 years ago.
Feels like a long time ago.
She was doing a book, and somehow we got connected, and I wrote a chapter in that book. I think it was about worth. And I think it was my big stand that my worth wasn't between my legs, if I remember right. It was like, your worth isn't between your legs. And it was really about reclaiming your worth after sexual abuse, I think was my whole take on it. So, my message just stayed the same. But we connected, and it was the very beginning of your business and your evolution as an entrepreneur. And I have just watched Angel thrive and change and follow her heart. So why I invited her here, besides the fact that yes, she was one that was in the vision that never says yes, that said yes. So this is just like, whoa, really? Okay. I knew it was supposed to be when a couple of the people that I've wanted to interview and talk to for years and just absolutely love were like, oh, sure, totally. I was like, oh my gosh. And Angel was one of them. So Angel, you've like, why I really see you here, or why it made sense that you were in that vision for me, is she came on the platform like really teaching about business and from her heart and everything. And as she's evolved, she's organically evolved and everywhere of your life, your message, your mission, how you teach, like, and some of it isn't like you're doing so much astrology and stuff right now, and you have been like in that passion and talking 5D, that that switch over from really practical businesswoman to then you like shifted to very graphic and designy woman, and then you shifted to a spiritual awakening kind of goddess leading woman, and then you shifted to I'm really following your insights and deep awareness into the cosmos and the workings of the 5D and everything. And the way that you embody yourself, this is what this whole interview series is about, is like even if it doesn't look like mainstream, even if it doesn't, it's about this authenticity. It's about this inner deeper trust that we can have within ourselves in the world. It's about walking your talk and living your life on your terms in this beautiful, loving, incredible way. And so when I saw you in the vision, I was like, yeah, I can totally stand on both feet firmly, rooted into Mama Earth, and say, yes, Angel is one that embodies heaven on earth. So welcome. I cannot wait for this conversation.
I'm so happy to be here. Gosh, I mean, we've both evolved so much, and that's the point of life. You got to keep growing, else you're dying.
Else you're dying. This is true. It's true. And how it leads and where it goes and how it feels is completely different. So why don't you just share a bit about you and your evolution right now, whatever you want to share, and then we're just going to flow into a conversation as always.
Okay.
From that, I'm sure some curiosity will pop up in my head.
Wow. Well, how I met Alicia is through Holistic Fashionista. We started a book called Holistic Fashionista Memoirs. And honestly, it's not so much that like my business has changed. I mean, obviously I've grown and things have evolved, but if you really go back to the first message, it was building holistic leaders of tomorrow. And that book that you contributed to, Holistic Fashionista Memoirs, was really about how our story, how all these painful lessons really were part of our journey into leadership. And so that became the beginning of me understanding what a kismet client is. So this is a trademark term that I coined many years ago to describe the type of person that you're really meant to serve, which is actually the type of people who are helping you through your evolution. So I believe that, you know, your kismet client to you, you're interwoven, you are entangled in each other. So as you serve them, you're actually serving yourself simultaneously, and you're healing parts of yourself. So if you really look at my evolution, it's actually in gratitude to my kismet clients, because I was working with the spiritual soulpreneur. I was working with the energy healers and the holistic practitioners and, you know, the womb magic goddess ladies. And through them, I was able to research and learn from them through my magazine and through the things that they were writing, the articles for our blog and attending their seminars. So, you know, when I finally decided to walk fully in my purpose and bring astrology back, bring astrology into my business, which was actually just something I loved to do since I was like 14. I just never thought ever to bring it into business.
Good at it. I'm like, my daughter walked downstairs this morning and she's like, I need to see your hand. And on her hand, she had all the astrology and everything, right? Like all the signs and like moon over here and stuff like this. I don't know. And so she's looking at my sign. She goes, oh, you just my hand. And I don't know if she knows anything about my signs or anything. And she's like, wow, your earth signs are really, really strong, Mom, and not very much Sagittarius or anything. I remember Sagittarius over here. She's like, but you're Capricorn and Libra and stuff like that's really strong. And your moon is really strong, Mom. And I'm like,
so good.
Interesting. I'm like, when did you get into this? It was so funny. But I was like, and then I thought, oh, Angel's on today.
Wow. Look at that. The divine communicating through your daughter, through us. And I mean, that's the thing.
And she was right. Whatever's in my hand, like that was right. I'm 3 earth signs. So yeah.
Oh, you are? I'm a triple earth sign too.
Well, we're so similar. Like you talk about yours. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Cause I'm Virgo, Capricorn, and Libra are my main.
So get a little bit of air in there, a little beauty, a little fashionista in there.
A little bit. I don't know where it comes up. Yeah.
Capricorn and Libra, they're styly.
Yay.
So, I mean, really it was, all of my work is really just, now I'm starting to realize that my work has to do with what my kismet clients want from me, and not in the way that like, what is the market needing? It's like when I teach something and I have a response, that's helping me to determine what that next step is. Where before I would just do whatever, you know, talk about things that I knew. I still enjoyed my work, but now that I realized that my kismet clients are very deep, they're very introspective, they're very spiritual. And I was like, oh, I can actually really go down the rabbit hole with these people, you know? And I think before I kind of just kept that as like my private time of like, I would go do all my rabbit holes on my own. And that would just be like my little hobby. But now I integrated that into my business. And of course, every time you elevate, every time you grow in consciousness, you will lose some of your market. I mean, that's just part of the trend, but you will
gain. It is happening right now with me. I'm like, I must be really, really growing because yeah.
But the thing that happens is that people will fall off and you'll get more than twice as many new people coming. So you have to have no fear of kind of showing more of who you are, because if you fear that, then your audience will always kind of maintain at a certain level. But the more that you challenge and you grow and you share and you kind of press the envelope, that's where I think you start to get into a magical place. And I'm seeing that right now, not only with astrology, but also with my tarot readings on my YouTube channel and just the type of people that I'm tracking.
Because you just got 10,000, right? Was that when we celebrated 10,000?
10,000. Yeah. So
subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah. And I never thought, I mean, I've always been like a YouTube person. Like I spent a lot of my time watching videos and just all of that stuff. And so when I went on YouTube, I had no idea that I had no idea that tarot was going to be taking my channel to a whole new way. So that, again, it showed me what my audience wanted from me. So then I ended up doing extended readings, and now I do private readings for my club members. So it just all happened. I'm just watching the signs, and the signs are coming because I'm actually getting out of my comfort zone, sharing things I normally wouldn't share, things I just do for me. I'm sharing with my people, because at the end of the day, like I said, your Kismet client is you. It's a part of you that needs healing. So it's been a really magical journey because of them.
That is so awesome. So yeah, I have had the same experience. Like people, like as I evolve or I talk about a deeper subject or don't feed into the story anymore. Like I'm really into rewriting the story, like a totally different take on inner child healing right now. And really reclaiming and rewriting your story by not listening to the old story as much or going into it. And as a therapist, like that's like, most of the time, like what we do. And and as I do this, or I talk about like mental control and everything like that, like I use the word manifesting a couple times and it's like, and then I said, we want to help. I used the word have chest congestion instead of hope. And I got like ridiculed for it today on an email. And so I just emailed her back and I'm like, I hope that you're okay, and everything. I know I used the word have instead of hope in my email. I meant hope, but in that, like, you're welcome to unsubscribe. Like I'm asking them to, like, please free up this space for the next generation of people to come in, because I think so often we have this fear of letting go that nobody else will come in. And I think it not only happens in business, but it happens in our relationships when we upgrade. And for a woman or a man that is as committed as you and I think anybody listening to this is to our own growth and watching it and expanding and changing and moving, it's very challenging to have that not shift.
I think a lot of people can feel very isolating, as you ascend and you start to realize that, you've raised your vibration to a certain degree, that there's less up here in this vibration than there is down here in the mainstream. So yeah, it can feel, if you haven't done a lot of the shadow work, it can feel a little isolating, feel a little lonely, which might make you want to retreat back into a lower vibration because there's more people down here. And this isn't about anybody being better or worse than each other. It's just, you have to know yourself so well to be okay with, I just have a small circle of friends, or I'm okay with just being single, or whatever it looks like for you. And I think that can be very scary for people because, by nature, human beings, which is kind of ironic or coincidental that we are in lockdown right now, we actually need to be around people. Like we need physical touch, we need things like that. But when you are in a higher vibration, just naturally, you might not have as big of an inner circle. It might be harder to date. Things that are valuable to you at where you are might not be valuable to the people where they are. And so again, you've got to have a strong sense of self. And I think that's, astrology really helped me, not only to build confidence, but just to be able to be like, oh, this is who I am. And really be okay with that. Like, I'm a rabbit holer. I'm kind of serious. I have my goofy moments, but if you're not going to be able to have a serious talk with me, I'm probably going to get bored and want to go home early. So it's just, but instead of being like trying to fit in or trying to be liked, it's like, this is just kind of how it is for me. So we're either going to find a common denominator and be able to explore each other on that level, or we're just not a vibrational match. And that's okay too. But you've got to get to a place where you know yourself well enough to be okay to say goodbye, so long, farewell, when it doesn't feel in alignment anymore. I think you're frozen or I'm frozen. All right. I think her computer crashed. So hopefully she'll come back and we can finish our conversation if you're watching this in my Facebook group. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, on Alicia's YouTube channel. So we'll just give it a minute. Thanks for your patience.
There we go.
There we go.
I'm connected. It just does that sometimes. And let's see if we're still on YouTube, which we usually are.
Yeah, I don't think we ever went down. So we were good.
Yeah. All right. So you were saying the let go. So we rise above, or we grow, our vibration changes, and then it no longer matches with different people, whether it's clients or romance or your job or just
Friends, yeah,
around you, your
family.
community. Maybe you have to move across the country. It shows up in 1,000 different ways. And then that releasing, that letting go, and you're talking about that fear of isolation that I think is really up for a lot of people, and the understanding of yourself, and how astrology has really helped you to understand yourself. So why don't we just go there? Why don't we go to how? I think that understanding yourself and allowing yourself to have that freedom to be yourself. I know I'm really serious. That's all the earth signs in me. And at the same time, like, I need to like rebel a little bit and get out and dance, but I don't want anyone to really pay attention to me. I want to be on my own, but like watched over when I'm out and about. So like, what are some things about, I don't know, like, what do you want to share? Like, how for people to start off or get to know about?
I can talk about astrology and maybe some of the planetary aspects you can look at. It's just some basic things. If you've, if they've ever run their chart, or even just their sun sign, if they know their moon and rising, great. But, the sun sign is really, that's when you read your horoscope, that's your sun sign. So that is really, that to me is more of like a superficial version of yourself. It's probably the part that you think is most like you. Like when I read about Capricorn, I have a Capricorn sun. So, it's always work oriented and structure and, reserved and all that stuff. And, for most of my life, I've always identified with that. Like I'm very Capricorn in that way. But when I started to look deeper into the chart and started to see all of the planets, because I believe the planets are all inside of you. So it's not just my sun sign, and my moon sign is like my emotions. It's also where those ancestral wounds come from. So if you, like, for instance, I have my moon in Virgo, so there's always going to be a level of analytics. It's also going to be I need to be of service. In order for me to feel emotionally charged, I need to know that I'm doing good in the world, that I'm coming from a place of integrity, honesty, maybe even to the extreme. So when you start to play with the like almost like molding a sculpture, you've got your sun sign here and the moon here and your rising and Pluto and all, and you start to create this like blueprint, this roadmap, and you realize how multidimensional you are. So we really pigeonhole ourselves when we only look at the sun sign, or even only looking at the moon and the rising, because if you want to know, like, some of the things that really get your rocks off and really light you up, like check out your chart and see if there's multiple planets in one house, or look if you have a lot of one planet or one zodiac sign in a specific cluster. Like if you have a lot of Capricorn, maybe your sun sign isn't Capricorn, but maybe you have like 4 planets in Capricorn. That means that's important information. So when I looked at my chart, I had 4 planets in Scorpio. Even though I'm a triple earth sign and Scorpio is a water sign, I was like, oh, I get it. This is where that rabbit hole in me and it needs to be satiated. So that almost like gave me permission to be like, this is who I am too. I'm this triple earth sign, but I'm this too. And that really started to add this dynamic or this depth to my own personality. And that permission, I think we don't give ourselves, because something like an astrological chart, if you haven't looked at one, you're kind of just like, well, I like this TV show and I like these kinds of books and I like this color. But if you look at the planets have personalities, so do zodiacs. So now you're adding multiple personalities, if you will, to your character. And I think that's what makes them intrigued. When you know yourself so well, people are like, wow, she's interesting, or oh, he's got a je ne sais quoi. I don't know quite why, but he might know why because he knows how multidimensional he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't know like anything about zodiac, and I'm a Virgo, and I do not relate to any of the sun sign. Like I
So
always
you
read.
probably have other things in your chart that are dominating that. That's what I mean. I
Yeah.
feel like the sun sign is pretty superficial. It's pretty basic, you know,
I'm like, I
outline
wish
of,
I was as clean as they say I am. I love it when the cleaner comes and helps out. I love when the girls do it, you know, like.
yeah, but Virgo is also about health and wellness and being of service and, you know,
Yeah.
caring about people. You know, Virgo does,
And in
it's
that
not,
way, I'm very like that. And then Libra, I think, is, I don't know which is which. Libra's either my rising or my moon. But both my parents were Libras. So I was raised by two Libra sons. So I think that has something to do with it too. Because I'm really into like balance and fairness and
yeah.
like,
And Virgo's that way too. So if you think
okay.
about like the order of how the zodiac goes, like Aries, Taurus, and they goes in order. Well, Virgo comes right before Libra. So imagine that Virgo is a person and Libra is a person. And in order for Libra to be birthed, she had to learn from Virgo. So Virgo actually said, oh, I'm passing the torch on to you, Libra. Take my honesty and my integrity and my analytical skills and my good deeds and do something with them. And she goes, okay, well, I'm going to make them prettier. I'm going to make sure there's rules and regulations. So she's passing the torch off. So it's very interesting, those two together, how they really do create a nice balance of beauty and service together.
Awesome. Yeah. And I love pretty things, soft things. I do. So as we move, like, okay, so there's this, we're moving up in the dynamic and in the vibration of the planet, and we're all here in isolation, and we're facing our own stuff, and we're looking at what we can do, how we can serve. Some people have lost their jobs, people are going back to school, people are investing in programs, people are sitting around and like, I'm gonna paint my trim. Like doing pretty projects, doing things that we've wanted to do for a long time. And other people are leaning into that fear and that sadness and the isolation, the aloneness, and dealing with their crap. And the shadow aspects, and not really understanding that that's a gift. So I know that you and I both have done a lot of work around the shadow aspects and everything like that. Would you touch just a little bit about how that really supports you to grow and be free?
Yeah, well, I think your feelings are your biggest guide, right? They're your biggest teachers. And so if we are feeling isolated or any kind of angry, hopeless, broke, whatever feeling that makes you not feel good. So there's a shadow there. And so obviously in astrology, you know, think of the shadow of Virgo, like curt, you know, can be a little rude, you know, like every zodiac sign has a light and a dark, right? A light and a shadow.
Yeah.
So every time we feel things and they feel like despair, they feel like these feelings that don't feel good, it's a cue that there's something out of balance. And if you ignore it, it will eventually either manifest into the physical, like a health condition, which is what happened with me. And, or your relationships will start to fall apart. You'll probably notice that a lot of people will be breaking up during this lockdown, because again, we're being forced to look at the things that don't feel good. And so when those show up and we ignore them, they just get bigger and bigger until it explodes and it's forced you into change. So instead of waiting for it to force you into change, instead, all the shadow really wants is your acknowledgement. That's all it really wants. If you ignore it, it gets pissed and says, well,
it gets louder and louder.
It gets louder and louder. So if you just give it a voice, like, what do you need right now? You know, just with yourself, you don't have to be like, see, the problem is people want to still play in that third dimensional consciousness where they blame people for, well, you make me feel this way and you did this and you didn't do the dishes and I don't like it when you talk to me this way. Instead of acknowledging, you know, well, how am I suppressing these shadows in me that make things more difficult to resolve. And so I think spending the time alone is a great way to be like, if you have anxiety or depression, or your hair is falling out, or you have acne, or whatever it looks like, you need to come to a place. And I like to do this either to taking a salt bath or something. You could do it through meditation. I love getting out in the sun if the sun is out, but being
If
quiet.
the sun is out.
I know it's been so rainy, but being quiet, I think, is one skill that we all need to learn how to master. And even if it's
Yeah.
listening to music, but you're quiet, you got to quiet because that's you giving attention to those shadows.
I don't know what I'm trying to do with my hair. I'm sorry. I'm like, it's like so big right now. Like, get out of my way. So I love that you said just pay attention to it. That's what I say, like, just become aware and pay attention to it. That's like my number one thing for all people with trauma therapy is like, you accept it happened. Acceptance, acceptance, acceptance. And from that place, there is movement. I think that there's so much fear or meaning making is what I call it. Instead of meaning, but meanie, because it's mean inside you. That we do, that does cause that screaming. And I always visualize like this little kid just like getting like
a tantrum.
Like, hey, mom, do something. And then mom, do something. I'll be there in a minute. And then the kid like goes and like trashes the kitchen or does something. It like it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But there is this confidence or the self-trust that I think needs to come into place that you do beautifully. And maybe it's through this awareness of who you are in astrology that allows you to open up to this. So, but what I'm seeing is there's this acceptance, and then there's the solution. You brought up your skin thing, which was huge, right? And I remember like your hair is so long and luxurious again. But I remember
my little fit. Oh my God, my hair was falling out and it was short.
It was falling out. It got super short. You tried to dye it 100 colors. It got thin. I was just like, I was just praying for you during that whole year. I was like, oh Lord, I see her going.
It was not good. I think you're frozen again. Well, I'll just talk. Well, I'm sure she'll come back here in a second. Okay, so facing the shadows. To me, I think a lot of physical ailments are spiritual wounds. And she gave a great explanation about a child, mommy, pay attention to me, right? So the shadows are basically doing the same thing until they don't get enough attention, until they start to come out in different ways. And that was a big wake up call for me, because I had this chronic skin disorder for so long and I couldn't figure out how to heal it until I started to really pay attention to, boundaries that I had not put up for myself, putting up with people's crap for too long, being too patient, not really honoring myself as a woman, taking care of my body in the ways that it needed to. But I think boundaries was the big one for me. And boundaries became very easy after I looked at my chart. Boundaries, I think everybody needs to realize, what boundaries they have not created and how to put them up. I was just talking about a bunch of stuff just to keep it going.
Thank you. Because I did that the first time, but didn't this time. I was like, come on, Zoom. So, just in case it didn't get all the goodness that you just shared, share again. And really, like, I just saw you come into solution, like, so beautifully for yourself. And then you shared that solution, right? It became part of your service, and your product line was built. She has a beautiful product line. Actually, just have one of her things. And yeah, so share.
Yeah, well, the thing is that and I feel like it's kind of passe or cliche to say you need to know who you are. And that's a very subjective, non-tangible kind of conversation. And it's like, what does that really mean to know who you are? Because when you know who you are, you know your boundaries, you know how to take care of yourself, you know what to do when the shadows show up, you know how you'll spend your alone time. There's just a lot of wisdom that comes when you know yourself. And so again, I'll go back, like it really was astrology that helped like plant the seeds, like, oh, this is why I was a workaholic. Oh, this is why, I am looking for a relationship that's so deep and profound, like Romeo and Juliet. Oh, this is why, I get bored and I need to have multiple programs. Oh, I got Mars and Gemini. Like I need to be changing it up all the time. So there's never a one size fits all solution. That's why to know yourself is not to just take somebody's program and then yourself. No, to know yourself is to understand your makeup, your blueprint, and how you're different and special. So don't tell me to focus on one thing, because Gemini is just going to give you a big fuck you, and it's just not going to be pretty. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's individual solutions for once you know who you are, it's never a one size fits all model.
Yeah. And I love that. I love that. I totally agree. Like you can't, like that's even in therapy and in trauma therapy and everything. Like when I tried to do it the cookie cutter way, or tried to do it the way that school told me I needed to, and look at people that way, it doesn't work. Even working with kids this last year, the big breakthroughs come from that individuality. The big breakthroughs come when they find their own way. Like what works for you? What's going to speak to you? How do you understand that? And I think it's part self-exploration. And I think anything that we can use, I've been loving this DNA test, because I'm like, oh, that's why I think that way. That's what's happening. It's from both my parents. Oh, I no longer have to fight this shadow, right? I can look at the shadow, accept the shadow's there, and we can move on. Like me and the shadow are just going to walk together now. And so I'm hearing you say that astrology is kind of the same, or, even deeper.
I think it's a great starting point. I think if you really want to know who you are, there's so much in there. Like one aspect would be like your north and your south nodes. And those nodes, those moon nodes, they have to do with your natural gifts. And then the north node is your challenge that leads you to your destiny. So we all came here to work through life lessons and all this stuff. So, but a lot of us, some of us don't even know our natural gifts, or we take them for granted. So a lot of people are like, well, easy. They're so easy that you're like, I can't even believe I could charge for that, but that's a natural gift. But the north node, those are the things we came to work through. Those are going to stretch us and pull us and challenge us in ways to help us expand our awareness, expand our consciousness. And so I always say that if you can utilize the natural gifts and be open to being stretched, you're not going to get bored. You're not going to worry about what do I do when I'm alone? There's nothing to do. It's like, because there's always lessons to learn. And so when I learned that I have my north node in Scorpio, again, there was that Scorpio again. It's like, oh, until you start going down the rabbit hole and using that in your work, you're going to get bored. If you were only using your natural ability, which mine is in Taurus, okay, my south node is in Taurus, like making things pretty, fashionable, beautiful, like that was a natural thing. But the part that was more challenging is like, oh, well, I got all the Scorpio, so how am I going to infuse that into? And then it became like a little game. Life became this exciting, Monopoly game of just like, what am I going to conquer next? And that makes life really exciting for me.
Beautiful. So I know that on your, I don't really want to close it out or anything. We can go anywhere with the conversation, but I know that you've been on your YouTube channel, you do like monthly readings, and like you hit them all, like every single one of the zodiac signs. And you've been doing it for a little bit, because I get your emails. And I'm like, I don't even know which one to read. They're like, I just get overwhelmed just looking at it. But I might learn more about it on this lockdown, because I'm going to have to give my daughter something to do. So now I'm like, all right, you're going to learn how to read my chart. So she's all interested in it. I'm going to have her start following you. So like you do these readings and everything. If somebody was to start with you there, okay, like listening to their readings and like getting to know you and everything, like where would they start?
Yeah. So I would run your chart, because if you, let's say for you, you don't really identify with Virgo, even though that is your sun sign. So you could start by watching your Virgo tarot life path reading that I do every month. And you may or may not resonate with it, but because you don't even really resonate that with your sun sign,
Mhm.
I wouldn't even watch that reading. I would probably look at my moon, or if you have my moon or my rising, but I would also look to see if you have any stelliums, like maybe you have a cluster of Capricorn, in a certain house. Maybe Capricorn ends up being a more prominent, right? So when I watch like love tarot readings, I'm going to watch Scorpio because I have Venus in Scorpio, right? So that would make more sense for me to, if I was just going to watch a love reading, which my readings aren't really necessarily like about love. I mean, it might be about divine counterpart or whatever, but not really in some of the more traditional readings that are on YouTube. But I might watch a different reading based on what's in my chart. So the first step would be run your chart, look at your sun, moon, rising. You might want to look at your Venus, or just look at if you have a whole bunch of one planet or one zodiac sign. That means you have a stellium. So for me, I'm a double Virgo. I'm a double Capricorn, and I have a bunch of Scorpio. So those three signs would be what I would start with if I was going to watch a certain tarot reading on my channel.
Wow. Okay. Cool. And then on Holistic Fashionista, do you have, I'm sorry that I don't know, but do you have a place for them to like get readings, or how would they go about
Yeah,
getting a
so
reading?
the tarot, so an
Chart?
astrology reading, that's separate. That's a life path astrology reading. They can book that on our temple, holisticfashionista.com. But the tarot readings, those have become very popular. So every Wednesday, I do private readings for the club members who are level 3. We do have a little promo going to try the club if you want to get a free reading. So we do promos from time to time, because the tarot readings, those have probably those are a quick way to get insights. Like if you need, like the astrology, that's a bigger undertaking. It's a more efficient way to look at everything. But the tarot is going to give you like, if you have a specific question, then the tarot is going to help outline, through spirit, what's going to be the best kind of like ways to look at it in different angles. So those have become really great. I think quick fixes. And I think a lot of people, they just want that instant, inspiration to kind of be like, okay, I just want to know I'm on the right track. I think that's very helpful. It's kind of like checking in with your therapist. It's just, am I on the right track? You are. Okay, I'll see you next week, that kind of thing. So I think the tarot is really good for just checking in. It's like a friend calling you up. Just check, haven't heard from you in a little bit. Just want to make sure you're good. Oh, you're good. Okay, good. Send you on your way. So that to me is like tarot. Astrology is like, we're going to hang out for the weekend and we're going to get to the bottom of this. You know what I mean? It's for me, that's the difference of how those two modalities would be used.
Yeah. So if somebody like hasn't had their, like doesn't have their chart, like they might know I think everybody knows their sun, right? It's like, but they don't know anything. Where would they find that out? Do you have like an app or something that you use, or?
So I use astro.com, it's just astro.com, and you will need your time of birth, date of birth, obviously, and then the city, state, country of where you were born. And if you have that information, then you would just plug it in. There's a little area under horoscope. You'd go to add your extended chart and then type in that information, and then you're going to get a wheel. Now, obviously, this is going to be a little confusing to people who have never seen a birth chart, but there is like a little, I wonder if I have one. I don't have one right here.
I think I have one. I was looking at it that I did for one of your classes like a while ago.
Because there's like a little key, so that if the wheel is, the little, and it'll have like little symbols, like a little moon, and it'll say like Capricorn, or like a little glyphs or whatever. So that would be just a great way, instead of looking at the wheel, that might be a little confusing, but looking at the little key, that would help you go, okay, that's my rising, that's my moon. So, that might be, I think I do have a class on my YouTube channel if people wanted to learn how to run their chart and everything like that. But, you could have a friend run it who knows how to run it for you, but those would be where to start. In fact, maybe I need to make a video just to make sure that I have that available for people.
There you go. We got an idea. So I love self-awareness. So what is one other thing that has helped you really I mean, you have a really beautiful life, and
You.
um, you get to do what fills you up and what aligns with you. And it hasn't always been easy. Hey, it hasn't always been like, yay.
Cartwheels and Care Bears.
Right? Like you have had challenges and everything. What has helped you to anchor that and continuously step into your truth? Obviously, a piece of that was this knowledge and understanding and interest that you have in astrology and tarot at the moment, but also wellness and health, and you're really big in ritual before, um, and I think you still are, but like it was like the main, it was a frontliner in business, and then just in your life, like what do you think really helps you anchor and create your heaven on earth?
So, I mean, I guess there's a few things, but the one thing that's really coming to mind is, being a leader. And I believe we all came here to be master teachers. You just have to
Mm-hmm.
know, you have to want to know what your gifts are and your challenges. So that's first and foremost. So, but to be a leader to me, which is my mission to help build holistic leaders of tomorrow, that means I also need to be a leader because I'm helping them to go on and
Right.
help do their thing, is, you know, getting caught up with people not liking you. And I think I get this question a lot. It came up for me many times in shadow work, but caring about what people think about you is very difficult, especially I feel like more for the feminine, the
Mm-hmm.
divine feminine, where I've seen men just like say whatever and they're like, whatever. And it kind of rolls off their backs. But for whatever reason, I think there's something ancestral, something ancient inside of us, or like we kind of like give a crap sometimes what people think. So for me, I have to be, like, I think it's also my double Virgo. Like, I have to purify my page. So if there's going to be any kind of like hate or argumentative or even just an essence, like I can feel, I'm an empath. So even when somebody writes something and it's not totally rude, if it has like an undertone or if it has like a passive aggressive, if it has any ego if I can feel their ego, I will immediately delete the comment and block the person. I'm sure there's other people that have their way of handling it, but for me, it's like a little dagger. And that dagger, if I allow it to seep further into my spirit, it will affect my leadership. Okay. It will actually knock me into a lower consciousness. And so I cannot allow that because I already know that it will start to manifest into other things. So it's kind of like that shadow that you ignore. Well, if that little
Mm-hmm.
dagger gets in and you entertain the dagger, like, oh really, well I'm just going to stab back, whatever. So now you're entertaining it, so then the wound gets bigger but your consciousness lowers and you're no longer able to really stay in that leadership role. And for me,
Mm-hmm.
in order for me to do the work that I do with the caliber of the people that I serve, I have to be very careful about who is in my sphere of circle, right? That's my
Yeah.
followers, the people that comment on my YouTube channel. So it's delete and block, delete and block. And I know there's going to be other people that say that's not how to handle it. I don't care. It works for me. And I'm going to continue to do it because until people wake up and realize that you probably wouldn't say that to my face, but you're really okay with saying that on my page, well, unfortunately, that's going to be a hard dose of reality when you don't actually get your problem solved because you're not open-minded to at least a different perspective. So
Yeah.
leadership to me is being okay with there's people out there that are not going to mess like you and resonate with everything you say, but it's going to be up to you to decide how you want to handle it. I personally delete and block.
Perfect. And that leads us back to like the very first part of this conversation, which is when you were saying like you got to let go to create room, let go to create room. And as a business owner, like that's huge for me. And I've been asked by spirit, by God, by myself, I mean, so many times over to release what I thought my business was, to let it be reborn into what it is. And I don't even know if it knows yet what it is. I think of them as their own little spirits, all
I
in
think you're
you.
right.
And I like literally have conversations with them. I'm like, okay, so how are you going to take care of this? Because like, how can I support you? And but there's that letting go. And for me, this boundary and trusting has been really big. I mean, this week especially for me, I was faced with, I could argue with somebody, or I could just say, I totally respect where you're coming from, don't agree, and there, you're free, you're free.
Yeah.
And even though it goes against some of my own policies or whatever, and I could have fought for not being free, right, to like hold on to it.
You know what?
I was like, nope, not even like worth it. Like totally with love and goodbye. And even in a little tiny way.
That's Libra. See, your Libra's keeping the peace. You know, there was a funny little thing I put on my Instagram.
I love to keep the peace more than I'd like to say. I'd love to keep the peace. It's actually kind of a problem.
So for me,
with my 3 teenage girls,
when you know who you are, so yours is like, I respect what you're thinking. I don't agree, whatever. That's keeping the peace. For me, Scorpio, no, delete, block. Like Scorpio, no time for your nonsense. You're not there yet. It's fine. Peace out. So again, see how one person's solution is not going to be, doesn't have to be the same. It's not a one size fits all thing. It's like your signs will dictate, well, let's have a conversation about it. Like Gemini might be like, let's debate about it. And she doesn't even get emotionally charged. She's just like, she's just fighting for fun, for entertainment purposes. You know, I could never do that. I'm like, no, you know, so it's like, again, knowing yourself, and that will help you understand how you handle conflict. It does not have to be the same as everybody else.
Yeah. Which is so huge. So
empowering.
Beautiful. Yeah. But the block and delete, like that needs, like I did that. It took me like, I think it took me a whole 24 hours because I rarely block. I rarely delete. I let people like stick around. I like thinking of people like right now. I'm like, oh, I'd really like to block that person. I'd really like to block that person. But I haven't, not for any reason. But there's this underlying, I want to say lack of self-trust, but this underlying lack of a boundary for sure, where I trust my feeling, but I don't know what to do about it.
Oh, that's
so
a good
that's
point.
Where I'm hearing the horoscope will come in to maybe help me go, oh, that's why I want to keep the peace. How can I keep the peace and delete at the same time?
Well, then that's fine because that's your methodology, right? So that's the way it feels good for you. And that's the whole point. And the more that we get comfortable with our boundaries in all areas, in relationships, in friendships, in how you keep the house, you know, how you wash the dog, everything that we're doing it always goes back to how we function inside. And it's not going to be the same. One person might say, oh, I need to clean every Thursday. I need to clean the bed. And somebody else is like every 10 days or whatever. So it's like, when somebody that wants to say my way's right, no, your way is right for you and not for me.
I hate that. My way is right. I really don't like that. Like nothing gets underneath my skin more than my way's right, your way's wrong. That right there for me is like, boom, boom, red flag. Like I gotta go.
But it's like, then there's the question of like, when you know something doesn't feel right and you don't do anything about it. That's the other part. It's like there's a sense of bravery. There's a sense of courage that it takes to actually be like, you know what, that's not going to work for me. So why don't we just take a break now and let's just, you know, respectively, you know, go to each other's corner and, you know, and see what happens there. Because most people won't do that. They will stay or victimize or point fingers and all this stuff. And that solves nothing. So for me, I feel like having that alone time, even if it's taking a break in a relationship, or maybe you guys don't talk for a few days, like I think that freaks people out. That might just be a method that works for me. But when people can go to their respective areas and have time to process, you know, if you're a Taurus, it's going to take you a lot longer to process something than maybe like a Gemini, you know, where they're thinking so fast and Taurus like, hold on, I need to whatever. But then again, it's like, they're going to handle conflict differently. So we have to be mindful and respectful that they are not us and they are not you, but that doesn't mean that your boundary is wrong and theirs is right. It's just different.
Just different. And being able to allow that is huge. I know my best friend is the exact opposite. She needs to be quiet. She needs her own space. She needs to figure it all out. And it's driven me crazy for 30 years because I need to talk about it. I want to face it. I want to like dive into it and go deep and like solve the problem. And she's like, and I need 2 weeks to think about it before we have that conversation. And I'm like, give me a break. But over time, like understanding each other and her understanding me and me understanding her, we allow each other now to kind of talk about it and meet in the middle someplace for the sake of our friendship, right? Because neither of our ways are wrong, they're just ours. And so when we know that, it frees us up to have that compromise and have that dialogue, and both parties, I think, or all parties feel accepted. So this time in quarantine is a beautiful time for all of us to get to know ourselves a little bit better.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
now we have a new tool. Okay, so how do people get in contact with you, even though we've said it a lot?
Well, I think a lot of people like to follow me on Instagram. So Holistic Fashionista is a good place if you just want to quickly just stay in touch or whatever. If somebody wants to learn more about Holistic Fashionista magazine, they can join our mailing list. That's at holisticfashionista.com. Those would probably be the best ways. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to share during this
No,
time?
I mean, I think the people that are probably listening, I mean, because I know you and I know the type of work that you do, that, they're stepping into their power and they're stepping into who they are. And, whether that's to start a business or to raise a family, what journey they're on, they're still a leader in their life. And they are there to help raise the consciousness of the planet. So the more that we can just get to know ourselves, like what lights us up, what makes us excited, what makes us sad, what makes us not feel good and why, and what could we do about that? So I think there's just a lot of, if you're not journaling yet, even having like one good friend that you talk to all the time. I use an app, me and my best friend, it's Boxer, but like she'll check in with me every day. And it's not a phone call where it's like you have to, stop what you're doing and talk. So it's like a walkie-talkie. So I think if you have like your accountability partner or your business bestie or just that person that gets you and that you just have something that you always can like go to bounce ideas off, I think there's something truly powerful about that relationship for your self-healing. If you don't have that person, I think a lot of people have somebody, but then a lot of people, we have like a circle and we're like, we're only going to talk to that person about that thing. And then this person over there, we'll only talk about that thing. But if you have that one person that you are both so open to whatever, I feel like there is something really valuable about that kind of relationship. And so if you don't have that person, be okay with being on the lookout to find that person. Reach out to people that, you love their feed or you love their work or you resonate with their posts and build those connections. We're so lucky to have the internet to be able to connect with people all over the world. And these apps like Boxer that I use, it could be talking to somebody in Spain and, if you're in the US. And so, it doesn't have to just be in your local area, your local community. But I think having somebody is going to be a very powerful part of your self-healing journey into leadership.
Yay, because we all are leaders of our own lives. All right. So I love your leadership style. I love that you know yourself. I love that you follow your path. I really respect you. And I hope that everybody listening just sees Angel and loves her stuff and gleams whatever you want to from her. If you like this interview in this series, go ahead and let me know by subscribing to the page. And if you want to get in touch with me, lishaantica.com, and you can schedule a journey there. We can chat more, just Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or YouTube, or leave me a comment, like whatever you want to do. I'm available too. Talk to you guys soon.
Bye.